Thank you so much for being here, not just in this seat at this moment, but being here as a human at this epic moment in history. Because we truly are at a crossroads, right here and right now, as individuals, as a society, and even perhaps as a species. We can continue on the course we've been going and we'll probably end up where we're headed. Or we can make some changes and create a very, very different outcome. So in this presentation, I want to illumine for you some of what is at stake in this choice. But first, a little context about me. My grandpa founded an ice cream company. It was called Robbins, 31 flavors. And my dad, John, grew up with a lot of ice cream, 31 flavors of it. He grew up with an ice cream cone-shaped swimming pool. And he was groomed to one day join in running the family company. But when he was in his early 20s, he was offered that chance, and he said no. And he walked away from a path that was practically paved with gold and ice cream to, as we jokingly say in our family, follow his own rocky road. He ended up moving with my mom to a little island off the coast of Canada where they built a one-room log cabin. They grew most of their own food, practiced yoga and meditation for several hours a day, and named their kid Ocean. They almost named me Kale. And this was before Kale was cool. On behalf of my social life, I am very grateful that they took the more conservative route when they named their son. But we did eat a lot of kale and cabbage and carrots and onions and veggies from the garden. And as I got a little older, we moved to California, and my dad began working on a book, which came out in 1987. It was called Diet for a New America. Yeah, there's a few fans in the room. And Diet for New America illumined the power of our food choices to shift the course of our health destinies and also to impact the world around us. And the media had a lot of fun with the story. They called him the rebel without a cone. They also called him the prophet of non-profit. Here was this would-be ice cream heir who walks away from his whole ice cream fortune and becomes a best-selling author writing about food and health. His work inspired millions of people, including, as fate would have it, my grandpa Irv. So my grandpa had lost his brother-in-law and business partner, Bert Baskin, to heart disease when my dad's Uncle Bert was 54 years old. He was a big man. He was one of the most successful entrepreneurs in American history. He had a family he loved, but he didn't have his health, so he ended up leaving his wife a widow and his kids fatherless. I never knew my dad's Uncle Bert except from family stories because he was gone before I was born. So my grandpa was on a similar trajectory, and about the age of 70, he was practically on death's door. He had serious diabetes, serious heart problems, serious weight issues. His doctors told him he didn't have long to live unless he made some big changes. And then they give him a copy of a book called Diet for New America by his renegade son who had turned his back on my grandpa's life's work. And my grandpa's life was on the line, so he read it. Not the signed copy my dad had sent him, but the copy the doctor gave him, of course. And he ended up following its advice. So he ate a lot more vegetables and whole plant foods, and he cut way down on his animal product consumption, and he gave up sugar completely. He even gave up ice cream. And he got results. The kind of results that we predictably and consistently see when people who have been eating the standard American diet make these kinds of changes. He got off all of his diabetes medications because he didn't need them anymore. He got off all of his high blood pressure medications because he didn't need them anymore. He lost a bunch of weight. His golf game improved 7 strokes. So my grandpa ended up living another 19 more healthy years. And I have this vivid memory of being in my childhood around that time, and my dad and I were marathon runners. And we were out one morning going for this run, and we passed by my grandpa who was out going for a morning walk with his dog. He was walking for an hour and a half every morning. And he's cheering us on as we're jogging past him. And I'm thinking, 3 generations of health. This is what's possible. So we have seen in our family what can happen when we follow the standard American diet, as my dad's uncle experienced, as my grandpa was experiencing. We've also seen in our family what can happen when we make a change, what kind of possibility exists for us when we step into another way of eating and another way of living. And of course, it's not just the Robbins family. It's all over the world. All over the world, we are paying an epic price for the status quo. And we are also seeing that if we do not make a shift, we will end up in pretty dire straits. So just a few facts just to illumine the stakes. Childhood obesity in the last 50 years has increased tenfold. 10 times as many kids are obese. The number of kids who are hospitalized for food allergies has increased fivefold in the last generation. The number of people who are obese keeps going up. Now 70% of the entire U.S. population is overweight or obese. We are on course that within the next 10 years, 50% of us may be obese or morbidly obese. The number of people who are at least 100 pounds overweight is skyrocketing. And it isn't just in this country, it's all over the world. A little while back, we passed an interesting milestone where there were more people who were obese than there were people who were malnourished on planet Earth. Right now, there are more than 2 billion people who are overweight or obese around the world. And interestingly, being obese and being malnourished often are in the same kinds of communities. Statistically, right here in this country, the poorer you are, the browner your skin is, the more likely you are to eat a diet that is statistically correlated with higher rates of heart disease and cancer and obesity, and the more likely you are to suffer from those ailments. Statistically, that we have billions of people on this planet right now who are suffering from some combination of malnutrition and caloric excess, and many people are suffering from both at the same time. Because we're overwhelmed with calories, the cheapest, junkiest calories that pile on the pounds, but we are starving for critical nutrients that our brains, our cells, and our bodies need to fight disease and to thrive. And I think when I look at the statistics and I see who is being impacted the most by the status quo, I feel this moral call to spread the word and to speak out and to organize, because as long as healthy food is some kind of an elitist luxury, for the privileged, then what are we doing to most of us? As long as we have food systems and food policies in place, which we do, that make healthy food more expensive and make junk food more affordable, then we are essentially condemning the poor to nutritional disasters. And I don't know about you, but from my perspective, I believe that everybody deserves access to healthy, ethical, and sustainable food. And I believe that that is particularly true of our children. So when I see that a third of our kids are now being projected to get diabetes in their lifetimes, when I see obesity rates being off the charts amongst our children, when I see rates of ADD and hyperactivity and mental health problems and depression skyrocketing amongst our kids, I say, what is wrong with this picture? Because every child deserves a society that takes care of them and protects them. And no, we can't just blame parents for not standing up and caring for them enough. Not when our school lunches are serving junk food. Not when we are saturating our children with advertisements. Not when Coca-Cola makes baby bottles with their branding on it. No, we can't just blame parents. Not when doctors don't say a word about nutrition. Not when pediatricians are pushing all sorts of drugs, but they will never talk about eating well and feeding your kid right, or don't even know what that means. No, we've got work to do. We've got work to do to create systemic change, which is why I founded Food Revolution Network, because my passion is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for all.